Okay, we'll get this thing started off. Good morning, everyone. I'm Paco Balderrama, Chief of Police here in Fresno. And first of all, I want to thank our media partners for being here today and covering this very important event. We are here to give you an update on Operation Safe Neighborhoods. This is a joint operation which we conducted this last week. It started on Monday, November the 1st, and it ended Sunday, November the 7th. Okay, it involved 155 law enforcement professionals from all over the country, and especially here in the state of California. Here with me today, we have various representatives. Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp, Fresno County Probation from the Fresno County Probation Department Chief Kirk Haynes, Fresno County Sheriff's Department representing Sheriff Mims. We have Assistant Sheriff John Zanoni. From the U.S. Attorney's Office, Assistant U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District and Chief Narcotics of Violent Crime, Kim Sanchez. From the U.S. Marshal Service, we have Assistant Chief Tim Morrell. From the ATF, we have Assistant Special Agent Joshua Jackson. Thank you for being here. From the Department of Homeland Security, we have Supervisory Special Agent Ulysses Solorio. From the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, we have Peter Bredosian. From the Clovis Police Department, we have Captain Jorge Gomez. And from the California Highway Patrol, we have Captain Dave Oakley. I mention all these individuals who are represented here today because all of them, their agencies, their agents, their officers played a very important role in last week's operation. They made it successful. The boots on the ground made it successful. Federal partners, and I've listed some of these folks already, ATF, the U.S. Marshals, HSI, U.S. Attorney's Office from the state. We got the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the Highway Patrol. We have county agencies, the DA's office, the County Sheriff's Office, County Probation, and of course we have the Fresno Police Department, the Clovis Police Department. Clovis provided an entire team for the week, and various arrests were made in the city of Clovis. This is one big team. And for this last week, it wasn't about what your patch looked like or what your badge looked like or what your jurisdiction was. This last week was we were one big team and we got the job done. I'm very proud of what everybody did. We have Lieutenant Ron Hughes here to my right. He was a commander of the operation, and he coordinated all these assets, all these resources throughout the week. The mission of this operation was to reduce violent crime, specifically gang-related shootings and homicides. This operation was intelligence-led, and it was focused on three things: surveillance and apprehension, uniform field enforcement in hotspot areas, and also compliance check for those people who are under the supervision of probation and parole. The results are pretty impressive. We had no homicides during this week, and we had one shooting victim. We also had very few shot spotter activations. Typically, a successful operation of this magnitude yields about 50 arrests, felony arrests. The totals are as follows: 106 felony arrests, 58 gang arrests, for a total of 187 arrests. There are 40 guns recovered, firearms recovered. You see some of these here in front of us. 69 probation searches, 19 search warrants. 58 of these arrests were gang member arrests. The other stats that I want to talk about are $140,000 in drug money seizures occurred this last week. And as far as narcotics, we had 2.2 kilos of marijuana, 1.2 kilos of cocaine, and 92 grams of methamphetamine, and 110 Xanax pills. Again, we were able to suppress crime this last week. This is something that the Fresno community really needed. We were able to lower violent crime throughout the week, and we sent a message that law enforcement in Fresno County are not going to put up with this type of gang violence. We will continue doing these operations because they're successful, because it's a team effort, and because we're able to save lives. And that's what we did this last week. So I am going to ask for several of my community partners, law enforcement partners, to come up here and say a few words. And we'll start with District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Chief. The first thing I'd like to do is I would like to thank Chief Balderrama and our federal partners for putting this operation together. I'd like to just give a special shout out to Lieutenant Ron Hughes, who I've had the benefit and privilege of working with for many years, for the success of this operation. Chief Balderrama, you have not been here for a long time, but your leadership, your innovation, and your partnerships, the bonds that you've already formed with these federal partners and our state and local agencies has been tremendous. So I want to thank you for inviting the District Attorney's Office in to work with your department. We were proud to have the ability to dedicate 15 DA investigators into this operation to fight gun and gang violence. The results are here, and the results are in the numbers that the chief gave you. So for anybody in the community who believes that defunding the police is a way to provide safe communities, this is a perfect example to show you why that is a complete falsehood. The results of this operation have been successful because they are proactive policing tactics that equal less crime and safer streets. They equal safer streets for our children and people of color. More police, more proactive policing, more community policing, more engagement with law enforcement in the community makes a safer environment for all of us. The end of the operation for these law enforcement officers and agents is the beginning of the prosecution for the DA's office. Thus far, 19 of these cases have been submitted to us, and 14 have been filed with 5 pending review. I anticipate that we will be filing a great majority of the 187 cases that have been submitted to us. So today, in closing, I would like to thank all of our federal partners, the Fresno Police Department, the Clovis Police Department, and all of the agencies that participated. Because of this operation, Fresno is safer today.
Thank you, D.A. Smitkamp. Now I'd like to ask Chief Kirk Haynes with the Fresno County Probation Department to come up here and say a few words.
Thank you, Chief Balderrama, and thank you to all of you for being here today. This is an important day. First, I'd like to just say thank you to Chief Balderrama for his leadership, and also to all of our federal partners for the work that we do in collaboration to do the work that we do to bring all of our resources to bear, to be able to bring safety to Fresno County, and allowing for different departments to be able to come together, to be able to show that we can have these kinds of results where we can see that our communities can be made safe by partnerships, not working in silos, but being able to work together in so many different ways. The Probation Department had 41 officers who participated in this operation. We submitted about 120 names for compliance searches. You saw that we had about 69 searches that were completed. As part of the work that we do with the Probation Department, not only do we, when we are engaging with our clients in the community, to take a look at if there is possible criminal behavior going on, but also the work that we do is also making sure that when we do compliance checks is that we check the welfare of our people that are out there as well, not only with our clients that we serve, but also families and those other supports that are there as well. And so when we look at community safety, this kind of work is really important for us as Probation Department to be able to look at the kind of things where we can take guns off the street, where we can take drugs off the street, where we can make sure that children don't have access to drugs and those kinds of things. And if these kind of coordinated efforts on behalf of the work that we've done as a community, if these things can't happen, then our community is much less safe for it. The last thing I'll say is that it's important when we think about in terms of our black and brown communities, the work that we do here, because so many of the especially young black men that are on probation in my community are victims of shootings, victims of crime. And when we can do these kinds of things to make sure that we take guns off the streets, we make sure that we can address those kind of issues as well. So again, I want to say thank you to our partners. I want to say thank you to Magic, to our adult compliance team for the work that they've done as well. And again, thank you for the leadership that's been exhibited here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chief. Now I would like to ask Assistant U.S. Attorney Kim Sanchez.
Good morning. I'd like to say thank you to Chief Balderrama and to DA Smitkamp and all the partners that are here who have longstanding partnerships with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and thank them for welcoming us into this unified mission of reducing violent crime in our community. The acting U.S. Attorney, Phil Talbert, and our office commits our resources to this partnership, be it through prosecutions, through outreach events, through advertising, that we're joining together on this unified mission to reduce violent crime and use our resources with our federal partners, state and local, to keep our community safe. Thank you.
And finally, before we open it up to some questions, I'd like to invite Joshua Jackson with the ATF, Assistant Special Agent, who partnered with us in this operation. This is kind of a spinoff of Operation Strike Force, which is something that we're doing here in California in this very important corridor where we know a lot of guns, drugs are being smuggled to gang members and causing violent crime.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chief, for the introduction, and thank you to all the investigative partners and teammates. ATF's always proud to stand here with our partners and report back to the community the impact that the investigative team is having in reducing violent crime. We're all fully aware of the uptick in violent crime throughout so many different cities and counties throughout our country, especially violent gun crime. It's no different here in Fresno. So coalitions and partnerships are key in addressing and meeting that challenge of this uptick in violent crime, and we're going to stand here committed with our partners as we continue to address this and serve the public. Thank you. Okay,
well, last few words are just that, again, I'm very proud and very honored to be here in the Central Valley where, apparently we know how to play well together and we can put together very successful operations. This last week was a success, but we're just getting started in our efforts to reduce violent crime. I'm very proud of each and every one of these individuals, our officers that were out there doing the work. We accomplished a lot. With no officer-involved shootings, no incidents of excessive force, nothing like that. We made the community safer this last week, but all of us together is a force multiplier. Not one agency can do this type of work by themselves, but coming together and becoming one team was very successful, and I'm very happy for that. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you guys might have.
You have all these handguns and rifles on display. I'm assuming
amphetamine and 110 Xanax pills. Additionally, we took into our possession $140,000 of seized drug money that was involved in the sales and transactions of drugs. Any other questions? Yeah, so I'm gonna ask one of the representatives from the U.S. Marshals talk about that. But basically, what we did is we were able to solve various crimes. So that map shows the impact that this operation had, not just in California but in other parts of the country. We were able to apprehend two wanted murderers in Mexico. We were able to apprehend several other people that were outside of Fresno County. When you see the mugshots up there, who those are individuals that were arrested for homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, robberies, and sexual assaults. So everybody that you see up there was arrested for some type of serious person's crime. But I'll ask our U.S. Marshals to come up and address that.
basically, when we locate fugitives in other states or other countries, we have teams already in place throughout the country and in other countries to try to effect arrests on those wanted fugitives. So those are just various locations where we found some of the fugitives that we were looking for during this operation.
And in terms of, I know when I did a story on Operation Safe Streets, I believe not neighborhoods, but streets, talking about probation and the period of time that was off during the pandemic because you didn't necessarily want to put officers up to the front of people's doors when you have high transmission and all of that. Can somebody from probation kind of speak about, getting the operations back up and running and then partnering with something like this to make sure that people are compliant?
Yes, it's true. For about a year, because of all we know with what was going on with the pandemic, we wanted to make sure that our officers were safe during that time. So we did make home contacts, but we unless they were under different circumstances. We really didn't breach the doors just to make sure that people stayed safe. But during the summer, we did have 4 different operations for Operation Safe Streets, and I'd say all the partners that are here also participated in those operations as well. Very successful. We had 2 Metro Fresno searches, and then we had an East and a West County search as well, which bared a lot of great results. I think at the end of the day, we saw that community safety, both in Metro Fresno and also in those outlying communities where they have smaller agencies, but we brought a lot of support being brought to bear to those communities. So when we think about that work that was done, what we wanted to do when we brought Safe Streets back was to make sure that our clients knew that you're liable to be touched and reached out to by a probation officer, by a police or a sheriff's deputy, someone who is making sure that the terms and conditions of the court are being followed, but also, like I talked about before, that if there are needs that need to be met, that probation officers have that dual role of making sure that we can address those issues as well. And so this kind of partnership that we have here was really highlighted during those 4 operations that we had this summer and fall. Thank you.
And Chief, at least at the beginning of the year, there was a large crime spike that happened. And so just speaking about, getting out onto the streets, addressing that when we had a large crime spike even last year, is there anything that you guys would like to say about that, or a message to viewers at home that maybe are concerned about coming outdoors at certain times of night or in certain neighborhoods during this last year?
I'll let the chief talk a little bit about that, but as far as probation goes, we are out and we have a presence each and every day out in our community. And so I want the community to know that our probation department, we have a role of course, supporting what's happening in court, making sure that people get out in treatment, but also we have a role to make sure that that people are following the rules, that they're following the terms and conditions of probation, that they're not breaking crime, breaking laws, and those kinds of things. So our officers are out in different parts of our community, different schools, different settings, making sure that those things are happening. I'll let Chief Balderrama talk about the other parts of it, but we are absolutely engaged in those kinds of things and continue to and will be.
Yeah, when I got here in January, we had 11 homicides in 1 month. 11 homicides in 1 month. That's abnormally high. At that point, we were on pace to have 120 homicides in 1 year. Okay, keep in mind, last year we set a 25-year record of 74 homicides. So the fact that this police department, along with the help of our state, local, and federal partners, have been able to slow that trend way down is very impressive. Right now we're at 65 homicides, and obviously we have 50-something days left in the year. We don't know what's going to happen, but what we are planning on is to keep the pressure on so we can continue to lower violent crime. And I think we're going to be either right at or slightly under than last year. So just the fact that we lowered violent crime was pretty impressive. There's a another chart that's floating around and behind me that shows the frequency of shootings. And if you look at the last 3 months, the percentage and drop in shootings compared to last year is also pretty unbelievable. And that's due to the hard work of the men and women in law enforcement, not just my police department, but our partners. And they're going out there day in and day out doing very proactive work, doing their jobs professionally, and sending a message that we're not going to put up with this, with that type of violent crime here in this community. And we have lowered violent crime. And just imagine what we could do if we had a police department that was adequately funded and we had the number of police officers that we should have in this community. It would be even better. So I'm very proud of each and every police officer and dispatcher and records clerk and CSI personnel and again our partners that work along with us doing the same mission to make this community a safer place to live. So so far we're not going to do a victory lap because the year hasn't ended, but I certainly am very proud of what we've done so far. Anyone else?
Launched by several other district attorneys against ghost gun makers. I heard about it yesterday. I think San Francisco DA has launched a lawsuit against ghost gun people that are manufacturing guns. They're making the precursors which are assembled illegally heard about that?
I have not heard about that lawsuit, but I can emphatically say I would probably not join anything that the San Francisco District Attorney is involved with. But I am not aware of that.
And just to talk a little bit about the guns recovered, obviously it's pretty very compelling sight to see just how many guns these teams were able to take off the streets in 1 week. But when you consider that we're on pace to recover 2,000 guns this year, 2,000 guns, and keep in mind this is not a Second Amendment issue. These firearms, number one, a lot of them were ghost guns, a lot of them were stolen, and they're all in the hands of people who should not have them. Juveniles, gang members, convicted felons. And that is what is making our community unsafe, is the number of illegal firearms that are just rolling around the streets. So we have to do a better job of taking more off the streets, but we could certainly use some help from Sacramento and some of our other political leaders to, look, give us some help. You know, some of these laws that are being passed don't hold people accountable. And when you're talking about violent crime, I mean, we need to put people who are committing violent crimes in prison, and they need to stay there. And that's the only way that we're going to long-term affect positively violent crime in this state. So, any other questions?
Well, Chief, following up on what I asked before, in terms of, is there any way to locate people? There's people out there that are manufacturers in Wisconsin. Is there any way to get a handle on who they are?
There really is. We're working closely with the ATF. They have, you know, Operation Strike Force, and part of that operation is to really try to identify who's buying the guns, who's circulating the guns, who's bringing them into this state illegally, you know, what different types of crimes are being committed with one firearm, and we have ways of you know, finding that out. So we're working very closely with the ATF to, you know, when we do recover one of these firearms and we do get a hit and we do get a connection, and these crimes will spiderweb very quickly into 10 other crimes committed all over California. We need to find out who's bringing these guns into our community and hold them accountable. So that is something that we're working very closely with the ATF on, and I think it's going to be successful.
Chief, do you know how many guns were recovered last year or the past 2 years in comparison?
So I don't have the exact figures. I can tell you that last year we were at around 1,800, and this year we're going to be over 2,000. So yeah, it's the number is increasing. We are taking more guns off the streets than ever before.
I saw on the slide there was an 18-year-old that was up there mugshot, a couple of 20-year-olds and some 30-year-olds. Are you guys seeing younger people involved or in some of these crimes?
Yeah, that's been a trend that's been going on in California for the last decade, is the fact that some of the laws against juveniles are very loose, and it's very difficult to actually put a felony case on a juvenile. So the gang members are finding younger and younger kids to be in their gangs so they can carry and they can commit the acts of violence, because they know that there's not going to be any accountability for juveniles where they have the possibility of going to prison or facing federal charges. And that's why we join up the way we do, because we seek the best and most effective avenue of prosecution. And I love what DA Mitkamp said earlier. This is, our officers going out there making the arrest or getting the recovery. That's just the first step. We have to prosecute these individuals and hold them accountable. And unless we work with our federal partners and our local county partners, we're not going to get that done. So it's an all hands on deck approach. Again, it's been very effective. I do have some numbers for the overall gang operation. Keep in mind, the gang operation actually started August the 5th, once we saw a spike in violent crime. And the numbers are pretty unbelievable. 1,300 total arrests, 1,345 total arrests, 535 of those have been felons. This is since August. And 245 guns taken off the streets since August. That doesn't include the 40 that we have here. So definitely a lot of work ahead of us, but we are making this community safer. We are sending a message, and we're not going to stop. We're simply just getting started. Anyone else? Thank you guys for coming out here. Really appreciate you guys covering this.